Democratic discontent. People in the party not so happy with the party, including its leaders. Listen to Senator Elissa Slotkin.
We need new leadership in the White House, the House, and the Senate. And on both sides of the aisle, that includes Democrats. If people can't understand that the game has fundamentally changed and they can't adapt, then they need to let others lead.
With us now, CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Etten. That's pretty direct there. We need new leadership in the Senate, says a Democratic senator. They have a Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, right?
They have a Democratic leader in the Senate in Chuck Schumer, but I think Elissa Slotkin is channeling Democratic voters on this one because it's no longer the overall electorate that doesn't like Chuck Schumer. Look at this change among Democrats themselves. Chuck Schumer's net favorable rating with Dems now versus the last time Democrats were going for that Senate majority. In early 2020, look at this. Chuck Schumer was 40 points above water, very much on the positive side of the ledger with Democrats. Look at this. Look at this change. This is nuts. Johnny B off on the side going, my goodness gracious. Now he's a point underwater with Democrats. Chuck Schumer isn't unpopular overall. He is that. He's not just that. He's actually not popular with Democrats. Elissa Slotkin, who's a moderate Democrat, her comments not coming out of left field.
Again, to be clear, this is among Democrats.
This is among Democrats where Chuck Schumer is struggling.
All right, how's he doing among Democrats in New York, his home state?
Yeah, you think that this number is bad. What about here in his home state of New York? I tell you, these numbers scream primary challenge 2 years from now. Look at this. Okay, New York Dems who view Chuck Schumer favorably. Again, in early 2020, it was 75%, 3 in 4 Democrats. Now it is less than half. Less than half of Democrats in Chuck Schumer's home state of New York, 47% who view him favorably. This is part of a larger picture in which Democrats are turning against their leadership. They are specifically turning against Chuck Schumer. He is actually underwater nationally with Democrats. And even in his own home state of New York, the Empire State, he can't even reach 50% favorable rating with Democrats.
One of the ways this has manifested itself over the last few weeks is a little bit of a leftward lurch and a rise of progressive Democrats, Democratic Socialists. We have primaries in Colorado tomorrow, and the potential for some surprises there. I should tell people the incumbent Republican Senator Michael Bennet, incumbent Democratic Senator
I know, it's so difficult
because
the numbers are so bad.
I was trying to say the R is running for governor there.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people thought that Bennet would go from the Senate to the governor's mansion pretty easily.
Yeah, that's what the thought was. He was leading in all the early polls, but he had a challenger in Phil Weiser, the attorney general in that state. And look at how these odds have changed. Look at how these odds have changed. Michael Bennet at the beginning of this month, look at this, 82% chance to win according to the Kalshi prediction market. Phil Weiser, just a 21% chance. These numbers have totally flip-flopped. Now it is Phil Weiser who's actually the favorite heading into tomorrow. Michael Bennet, who of course is a longtime senator from the great state of Colorado, is an underdog running for governor. This is how toxic the Democratic brand in Washington, D.C. is, and Chuck Schumer in particular.
And there's a 30-year Democratic incumbent, Diane DeGette, who could be in some trouble there.
It could be in trouble. She is in trouble. I mean, this could be another one for the Democratic Socialists. Look at this. The chance that Mila Kuros is the Dem nominee for Colorado 1. Again, at the beginning of the month, it was 41%. Now it is a 78% chance that another Democratic Socialist knocks off an incumbent. Another Democratic Socialist wins a House primary on the Democratic side. The Democratic Socialist number is rising on the Democratic side on the House of Representatives in large part because the Washington, D.C. Democratic brand is toxic, not just with voters overall, but with the Democratic base in particular. It is a whole new world, and we'll likely see that tomorrow in Colorado as well. Of course, we'll just have to wait and see.
Stay tuned. More on this to come.
The populism movement that helped give rise to Trump and MAGA is now apparently taking over the Democratic Party establishment. Liberals are in shock after a wave of wins by socialists all across America, whether in mayoral races or in House primaries.
Understand, these people do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly. I'm done. I'm not in a political party.
Socialists are socialists. They should form their own party. They try to crash our party, the Democratic Party.
We have literally found ourselves in a situation where we just don't have people who understand the moment and understand what leadership means.
It is one of those moments where it feels like, we're in the shoehorn phase of this thing where all of the plot lines are converging. And it's also at the same time upside down world in which Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly are throwing Trump under the bus, and the Democratic Party is infighting with itself. Is this just where we are 10 years into this new era of Trump and Trumpism?
I mean, I think the Democratic Party is ripe for this to happen. I honestly, this is exhausting. I think that the people are trying to tell the Democratic establishment, the Democratic leadership over and over again, that they want to have representatives who represent them and not billionaires and not lobbyists and not centrist, middle of the aisle people, that they're watching what's happening to their country, they don't like it, and they're looking for fighters. So if the fighters happen to come from the Democratic Socialist team when they're in New York, if they happen to come from somewhere else when they're in Virginia, then those are the people that people are going to vote for. And I think the Democratic establishment is freaking out, but I don't think the Democratic voter is. I think the Democratic voter is quite excited that we're finally seeing people with a fight. And I think that it's not far left, this idea that it's far left for us to have some form of universal health care. That's not far left. We're having the World Cup right now. Every single country in the World Cup has universal health care except us. That's not a far left position. That's a pretty general world position. It's not far left to be able to say, I want to work a job and be able to afford a place to live and food. It's not far left, right, to say that you want to stay home with your baby when they're born and take care of them and have paid family leave and affordable school when they are grown up. That's not far left. That is pretty standard for the rest of the world.
It's sure, but those are not the positions I think necessarily causing these people to be characterized as far left. It's a lot of the other stuff.
What other stuff?
Let's eliminate prisons.
Let's eliminate prisons. Let's seize.
There's a lot of other stuff, and frankly, some of it is
let's say what they
random.
Let's seize the property from landowners, quote unquote. Let's eradicate America, quote unquote. Let's bring violence to America's streets, quote unquote. This is not me just making this up. This is in writing, and these are the candidates who are winning elections in this country, and it's not just New York City.
No, it's not candidates. You're naming 3 candidates, but you're particularly naming the words from one
Chris
candidate.
Rabb, who said that Zionists did the Bondi Beach massacre. He's in Pennsylvania. Let's do Graham Plattner, who has said a lot of things, including the fact that I am a communist, quote unquote, in writing. This is a national phenomenon now on the left. And one of the things that I see now from Democrats, and I love that montage, there are a lot of Democrats who are trying to push back and take their party back. But I see Cory Booker, I see Chris Van Hollen, I see Chris Murphy making their accommodations with their new socialist overlords and saying, listen, this is where the party is going to go. So yeah, if they were going to show any backbone, any instinct towards self-preservation, they would have looked at the DSA when it attacked the Democratic National Committee in November of 2023 violently. Representative from Illinois, Sean Casten, said we were rescued by police and it could have been much worse. If the Democratic Party had any instinct to self-preservation, they would have said, listen, these people want to do us physical harm. They do not belong in our party. You're comfortable with it. I wouldn't be. They're coming for you too.